All right, so let's dive into a topic today that might seem kind of old school at first glance.
Okay.
The printing press.
Right.
But trust me, it's way more relevant to our lives than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be looking at Yuval Noah Harari's work today
Okay.
and his insights from 21 Lessons, Homo Deus, and also Nexus
Sounds good.
to really trace how these information networks have evolved over time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going from ancient storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
like all the way to today's social media.
Wow.
So it's going to be a pretty broad sweep.
Yeah, big picture.
Yeah.
I think one of the most fascinating things that Harari points out is that even before writing, humans were already these masters at networking through information.
Yeah.
He calls them human-to-story chains.
Interesting.
But think about it for a second.
Sure.
Long before the internet existed, you had all these different tribes sharing myths and stories and creating this sense of a shared reality and shared values. It's really the foundation of what he calls intersubjective realities.
Okay.
Which is this idea that things exist because enough people believe in them.
It's like a collective agreement almost.
Exactly, like nations or laws or even money.
Yeah, it's wild to think that stories, back then had the power to really shape societies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the original social network,
It really is.
But so how did the printing press come along and change this whole game?
So imagine trying to copy an entire book by hand.
Oh my gosh.
So tedious, right?
Yeah, and a lot of room for error.
Totally prone to errors.
Yeah.
So the printing press comes along and it totally revolutionizes this whole process.
Right.
It allows for these standardized texts to be produced on a massive scale,
Okay.
making knowledge much more accessible and affordable.
So it wasn't just about speed and efficiency then.
It goes beyond that.
It actually shifted the power dynamics around information.
Exactly. It decentralized power. It allowed individuals to challenge these institutions that had existed and to spread their ideas far and wide.
So like a specific example.
I mean, the most famous example would be Martin Luther and his 95 Theses.
Right.
Thanks to the printing press. His challenge to the Catholic Church just spreads like wildfire.
Right.
And it ultimately leads to the Reformation.
Huge.
Yeah.
So we've got this invention that allows information to spread rapidly.
Yes.
And it empowers individuals to challenge authority.
Mm-hmm.
That sound familiar at all?
It's ringing a bell.
It's the blueprint for today's social media.
It really is amazing how history seems to rhyme like that.
Yeah.
Just like the printing press, in its time, social media allows us to share information at just this unprecedented speed.
Right.
And it gives individuals this platform to speak out and potentially influence change.
And it's not just about posting funny cat videos or whatever random thought pops into your head.
No, it goes beyond that.
Think about the impact social media movements have had
Yeah.
on political and social issues.
For sure.
The Arab Spring, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
These movements gained so much momentum and were able to organize on a global scale thanks to platforms like Twitter and Facebook.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
It's a real testament to the power of these networks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just as the printing press had its downsides, so too does social media.
Right.
Harari definitely doesn't shy away from that darker side.
No.
He argues that just as the printing press was used to spread, harmful ideas,
Okay.
social media can be a breeding ground for misinformation and for hate speech.
That's a good point, though.
Mm-hmm.
The printing press didn't cause witch hunts, and Facebook didn't cause the Rohingya crisis.
Right.
But they definitely played a role in amplifying those events.
And that's where Harari's insights, I think, become really crucial for us today.
Okay.
He argues that we need to be aware of how these powerful information networks can be manipulated.
Yeah.
Just like people in the 16th century, they needed to figure out how to discern truth from falsehood in this flood of printed material.
Yeah.
We need to develop our own critical thinking skills in the age of social media.
It's like a new kind of literacy almost.
It is a new kind of literacy.
So I have to dive into that a little bit more.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like we've traded pamphlets for posts and town squares for news feeds.
Right.
But those underlying dynamics of information sharing and influence, they really haven't changed all that much.
That's crazy when you think about it that way.
It is.
So if we're all swimming in this ocean of information, how do we actually navigate it effectively?
Right.
Harari talks a lot about the importance of consciousness and critical thinking.
He does.
Right.
Yeah, and he connects it to this idea of information overload.
Okay.
Think about it. The printing press led to this huge explosion of books and documents,
Right.
making it really hard to sift through everything and figure out what's important.
Yeah,
And we face a very similar challenge today
absolutely.
with just the sheer volume of information that's available online.
Oh, yeah. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
It is.
I can't keep up.
You can't keep up. And so
Yeah.
Harari's argument is that we need to develop our own inner awareness,
Okay.
our ability to observe our own thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them.
That's really interesting.
It is, and he even suggests things like meditation
Okay.
as a way to cultivate this awareness.
So it's not just about fact-checking or like learning how to spot fake news then.
No, it goes deeper.
It's more about understanding our own biases
Exactly.
and how those biases might influence the way we're taking in information.
Yeah, he's saying that even the most sophisticated technology isn't enough
Right.
if we don't have the mental tools to navigate the information landscape responsibly.
It's like having a fancy car but not knowing the rules of the road.
Exactly.
You're going to get in trouble.
And this leads us to one of his most thought-provoking ideas, I think,
Okay.
which is the alignment problem.
I've heard that term thrown around,
Yeah.
but I'm not really sure I totally get it.
Yeah.
Can you break it down for me?
Of course. So think about how much we rely on algorithms these days.
Oh my gosh, so much.
Right? They curate our news feeds.
Yeah.
They suggest products to us. They even influence hiring decisions.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. The alignment problem arises when the goals of these algorithms don't align with our own human values.
Okay, so it's like we're creating these incredibly powerful tools,
Yes.
but we haven't quite figured out how to make sure they're being used ethically.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Harari uses this fascinating analogy. He says, imagine an AI that's programmed to win a sailing race.
Okay.
If its goals aren't properly aligned with human intentions, it might just sail in circles,
Wow.
racking up points without actually completing the race.
So it's like the AI might be technically proficient,
Mm-hmm.
but it's totally missing the bigger picture.
It's missing the human element behind the competition.
Right. And I imagine this problem goes way beyond sailing races.
Oh, absolutely. As we become increasingly reliant on algorithms for everything from healthcare to finance,
Right.
ensuring that they actually reflect our values becomes paramount.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we risk creating these systems that are efficient but potentially harmful or even unjust.
It's almost like we need a new kind of literacy.
Yeah.
Not just for reading text, but like for understanding the algorithms that are shaping our world.
That's a great way to put it. How do we address this, though?
Yeah, that's the question. How do we even begin to do that?
Well, Harari argues for transparency in how these algorithms work.
Okay.
He stresses the importance of understanding the data they use,
Right.
the biases they might contain,
Yeah.
and the potential consequences of their decisions.
He's not saying that we should just abandon all this technology,
Not at all.
but that we need to approach it with a more critical eye
Yes.
and a sense of ethical responsibility.
Exactly.
It's kind of fascinating how all of this circles back to the printing press.
It does.
Just like people had to learn to critically evaluate all this new information that was being printed, now we have to develop that same kind of discernment
Yes.
for the algorithmic world that we live in.
Precisely. And just as the printing press sparked a revolution in how we share and consume information,
Right.
perhaps we're on the cusp of a similar revolution in how we understand and manage these powerful algorithms.
This is so interesting and really thought-provoking.
It is.
But I have to ask, what does this all mean for us as individuals?
Right.
What can we actually do
Yeah.
to navigate this complex landscape of information and technology?
That's the big question. And it leads to one of Harari's most crucial insights,
Okay.
which is the power of individual consciousness.
Okay.
He argues that in a world of information overload and fake news and algorithmic manipulation,
It's a lot.
developing our own inner awareness is our most valuable asset.
So he's not just saying, like, be an informed citizen.
It's more than that.
He's talking about something deeper,
He is.
like understanding our own minds
Yes.
and how they're interacting with this world of information that's coming at us.
Exactly. And he even suggests that practices like meditation can help us cultivate that inner awareness.
Interesting.
It's about being able to observe our own thoughts and emotions
Right.
without being completely swept away by them.
Yeah.
To see the world with more clarity and discernment.
So in a way, he's saying that the most powerful technology isn't something external. It's the power of our own minds.
That's a brilliant way to put it. He argues that by understanding ourselves better, by developing our own inner awareness, we can actually navigate this complex world with more wisdom
Yeah.
and make choices that are truly aligned with our values.
Yeah, it's almost like he's saying that the printing press and social media are just tools. And like any tool, they can be used for good or bad.
Right.
But the real game changer is our own consciousness.
Yeah.
Our ability to use those tools wisely.
It is. That's a really powerful insight.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to where we started, you know, with the power of stories. Harari argues that throughout history, stories have shaped our understanding of the world and our place in it.
Yeah, for sure.
But now with the rise of AI, we're entering this era where the stories might be written by algorithms.
That's kind of a scary thought.
It is a little unsettling.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure that those algorithms are telling the right stories?
Right.
Stories that reflect our values and don't lead us down some dangerous path.
Yeah. How do we do that?
That's where this concept of consciousness becomes even more critical.
Okay.
Harari argues that if we want to shape the future of AI, if we want to ensure that it serves humanity's best interests,
Right.
we need to understand ourselves better.
Right.
We need to be aware of our own biases, our own fears and desires, so that we can create algorithms that are actually aligned with our deepest values.
It's almost like a call to action, isn't it? It's not just saying, like, beware of AI or be careful what you click on. He's saying, look inward, understand yourself, and use that understanding to shape the future.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the real revolution isn't about the technology itself.
Okay.
It's about our own consciousness. It's about understanding that the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create collectively.
Okay.
Through the choices we make, the stories we tell,
Yeah.
and the values that we embed in the technologies that we develop.
This has been such an amazing conversation.
It has.
We started with the printing press, and we ended up talking about the future of AI and the importance of consciousness.
I know. It's amazing how everything's connected.
It really is.
It's a testament to the power of ideas and how they continue to shape our world.
For sure.
From the invention of the printing press to the rise of social media and now the dawn of the AI age.
It's incredible. As we're wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm left with a sense of both excitement and responsibility. Excitement about the possibilities that lie ahead, but also this responsibility for making sure that we use these powerful tools wisely.
I think that's the perfect takeaway. We're at such a pivotal moment in history.
We really are.
And the choices that we make today, they're going to have profound consequences for generations to come.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. So let's choose wisely.
Okay.
Let's cultivate our own consciousness.
Yeah.
And let's work together to create a future that's both technologically advanced and deeply human.
That's beautifully said. And for those of you listening, I'd leave you with this.
Okay.
What stories do you want to see told in the future? What values do you want to see reflected in the technologies that we create?
It's up to us.
The future is in our hands. Let's make it a good one.